Hello, my dear friends, my fellow travelers on this journey of life who are sitting right there on the other side of the screen. I truly wish you a day filled with deep peace, a day where your soul can just breathe and feel completely untethered. Today, we are not gathering here to lecture each other or to go through some abstract high-minded theories that feel miles away from reality. No, not at all. Let us just sit down together like two old, trusted friends who have crossed many rivers and climbed many mountains, looking back at the long, winding road we have left behind. Go ahead and find yourself a genuinely comfortable spot to settle in. Maybe it is that familiar armchair that has held you for years, or perhaps it is a quiet corner next to a warm cup of tea. Just let your heart slow down, let the busyness of the outside world fade away, and allow yourself to be fully present in this quiet space right now. Have you ever found yourself sitting completely alone by the window late in the afternoon, just as the twilight begins to fall and the golden sun dips below the horizon? In those exact moments, the world outside your window suddenly becomes quiet, almost too quiet. The ticking of the clock on the wall seems to grow louder and louder, echoing through the room with a steady, heavy rhythm, as if it is relentlessly counting down the moments of your life. And it is precisely in that stillness that a strange emptiness, a distant, lingering ache, unexpectedly rises from deep within your chest. This house, this very space you are occupying, was once so filled with life, wasn't it? There was a time when these walls shook with the chaotic, beautiful sounds of children running and jumping around. There were bursts of laughter, loud voices calling out to one another, and the comforting clatter of dishes hitting each other as dinner was being prepared every single evening. But now where did all those sounds go? They have receded so far into the past. The home that used to overflow with vibrant energy is now so profoundly silent that you can actually hear the sound of your own soft sighs. You can hear the lonely, quiet beating of your own heart. When we think about getting older, when we look at the milestone of turning 60, 70 or 80, most of us naturally assume that the most terrifying thing is the decline of our physical health. We worry about the sharp aches in our joints when the weather turns cold, or the fact that our steps are no longer as steady and sure as they used to be. But there is an underlying truth that only those who have actually reached this stage of life can truly understand. It is a quiet, haunting fear that goes by the name of absolute isolation. It is that heavy feeling you get when you realize you are slowly being left behind, stranded on the shore while the fast-paced, rushing river of the world keeps moving forward without you. When your children have grown up, found their own partners, built their own careers, and become completely consumed by their own frantic worlds, you suddenly find yourself feeling like a stranger in the very nest you spent your entire life sacrificing to build. This kind of loneliness is nothing like the loneliness you felt when you were young. Back then, being lonely just meant waiting for a date, missing a lover, or feeling anxious about what your career would look like. But the loneliness at the twilight of life is different. It is a vast, endless ocean of emptiness. It is a haunting sensation that you are no longer needed, that the monumental values and structures you spent a lifetime creating are slowly fading into oblivion, unnoticed by anyone. My dear friends, if you are going through days like this right now, if you feel your soul mimicking a dry, withered leaf rattling aimlessly in a cold autumn wind, please take a deep breath and let it go. You can breathe a sigh of relief. You are absolutely not alone in this emotional landscape. Everything you are feeling right now is completely natural. It is the ordinary human response of someone who poured their entire youth, their entire heart, into their family and society. Today, I want to share a very special message with you. Thich Nhat Hanh, a beautiful master of mindfulness and peace who dedicated his entire existence to soothing the deep wounds of humanity, left us a priceless lesson. This lesson is wrapped up in just a few simple, ordinary words, but it holds a monumental strength within it. It is a power that can completely shatter the walls of absolute isolation surrounding you. It can transform the remaining half of your life from a period of bittersweet waiting into the most liberated, peaceful, and magnificent years you have ever experienced. So often we run around trying to find peace in some faraway place, or we desperately pray that someone else will come along and bring joy into our lives. But Thich Nhat Hanh pointed out that everything we could ever possibly need to heal this heavy loneliness is already resting inside us. The path ahead of you does not have to be walked by a lonely, sorrowful shadow anymore. Instead, it can become the journey of an awakened soul, a soul that knows exactly how to return home and find refuge in its own being. Are you ready to open the doors of your heart with me today? Are you ready to listen to this profound lesson so we can transform those hidden, silent tears into a gentle, peaceful smile? Let us step into the next part of our conversation, slowly and without any rush, allowing the soothing energy of mindfulness to nourish and embrace your soul in this very moment. To truly understand the essence of the Zen Master's teachings, we must first find the courage to look directly at the reality of our lives. We have to call our pain by its true name, bringing to light those silent hurts that have been burning quietly in your heart, hurts that you may have spent years hiding away because you simply refused to become a burden to your children. So, let me sit down right here beside you. Let me listen to you, and let us deeply connect with the raw, authentic pieces of your daily life. I want to show you 3 typical situations where you might just see a reflection of your own soul. Think about the first situation, a reality that is playing out in so many modern households today. It belongs to those of you who are technically living under the exact same roof as your children and grandchildren, yet you feel a bone-chilling loneliness every single day. The house is beautiful. It has every modern convenience you could ask for. The voices of your children echo through the halls, and the grandchildren are playing nearby. And yet, there feels like a massive, invisible wall standing right between you and their world. People call it a generation gap, but in reality, it is the painful experience of being utterly alone in the middle of a crowd. In the evening, after a long, exhausting day at work, your children come home, but their eyes are instantly glued to their smartphone screens or tablets. Your young grandchildren, who used to be the absolute joy of your twilight years, would rather play video games in a digital universe than sit by your side and listen to stories about the old days. You spend hours cooking a beautiful meal, preparing everything with so much love, but around the dinner table, the conversations keep getting shorter and shorter. Your children ask a few superficial questions about your health just to check a box, and then they immediately slide back into talking about their jobs, their money, or their own social circles. If you try to offer a bit of advice, or if you want to share a piece of wisdom you learned from your own life, you are met with quick dismissals or careless words like, "Mum, Dad, that was a different era. Nobody does things that way anymore." Those words feel like sharp needles pressing straight into your heart. They make you feel completely obsolete, redundant, and stripped of your worth in the very home where you used to be the ultimate pillar of strength. So, you choose to stay silent. You quietly retreat to your own room, your mind incredibly heavy with thoughts and feelings that you know no one has the patience to listen to. Then there are others among us who are facing an entirely different kind of heartache, the empty nest syndrome. This is the profound sorrow felt by mothers and fathers whose children have grown up and moved away to big, distant cities, or perhaps even to another country entirely. The moment the last child packs their bags, walks out the door, and steps into their independent life, the house suddenly expands, becoming terrifyingly vast and empty. You find yourself standing in the middle of the living room, looking at an old toy your child used to love, or tracing a faded pencil mark on the wall from a decade ago, and a wave of intense longing washes over you. For your entire adult life, you were conditioned to wake up early and stay up late just to make sure your children were fed, clothed, and safe. You were used to hearing the words "Mom" or "Dad" dozens of times a day. And then, without warning, that entire rhythm of life grinds to a sudden halt. The telephone becomes the absolute only bridge holding your relationship together. But the heartbreaking part is you might go a whole week only to receive a few incredibly rushed phone calls. "Hey Mum, just calling to check in. Are you guys doing okay? I'm so swamped with work right now. I'll call you next week, okay?" Before you can even finish your sentence, before you can remind them to dress warmly because the weather is changing, you hear the abrupt click of the line going dead. The physical distance between you is hard enough, but it is the distance created by their constant busyness that is truly terrifying. You sit there, staring at the silent phone in your hand, and a dark thought creeps into your mind. Am I becoming a burden? Am I just an annoyance to my own children? That feeling of rejection slowly grows, eating away at your peace during those long, agonizing nights when sleep refuses to come. And perhaps the most deeply painful and isolating experience of all is the third situation, the grief of losing your life partner. As we cross into the later chapters of life, the person who walked beside us since our hair was black, the one who shared every single drop of bitterness and sweetness that life threw our way, suddenly leaves this world before us. It is a loss so monumental that nothing else can ever truly fill the crater it leaves behind. The bed you sleep in is suddenly completely empty on one side. The armchair in the corner of the living room sits vacant. No one is there to read the morning paper anymore, and the dinner table is reduced to a single, solitary plate and set of utensils. You find yourself standing in the kitchen starting to cook, only to realize you don't even know who you are cooking for. You hear a funny joke or an interesting story on the news, and you instinctively turn around to share it, only to realize there is no one there to listen. The only human being on earth who truly possessed the keys to your oldest memories, the only one who remembered your smallest, strangest habits, is now resting 6 feet beneath the earth. Every single day becomes an exercise in survival. You look at old photographs, remembering the days when the two of you walked hand in hand through the park, and the future ahead looks completely dark, foggy, and meaningless. At this point, loneliness is no longer just a state of mind. It becomes a physical ache in your chest, a tightness that constricts your lungs every time you think about the face of the one you lost. My dear friends, I'm not writing these words or detailing these heartbreaks to make you suffer more. I'm not trying to force tears from your eyes. I'm saying all of this because I want you to know that I understand. From the very bottom of my heart, I see you, and I deeply honor the weight you are carrying. This loneliness is real. The pain and the heaviness you feel are completely valid. It is entirely human for you to feel hurt or to find yourself sobbing quietly in the dark when you feel forgotten or when you miss the love of your life. You do not need to put on a brave face for your children. You do not have to pretend that everything is perfectly fine when there is a raging storm inside your heart. Give yourself permission to acknowledge this pain, but at the exact same time, please do not let yourself be completely swallowed by it. The road ahead of you is still long, and the wisdom of Thich Nhat Hanh is going to act as a lifeline, lifting you up from the ashes of these broken emotions. Right now, take a deep, slow breath. Feel the cool, fresh air filling your lungs, and let us walk together to discover the absolute root cause of this loneliness in the next part of our journey. When we find ourselves completely surrounded by the suffocating fog of loneliness, what is our immediate instinctive human reaction? Our instinct is almost always to run away from it. We try everything in our power to escape the emptiness, desperate to fill that gaping void with anything we can grab from the outside world. I want you to take a moment and honestly reflect on your own habits. Isn't it true that whenever the house feels too quiet and your heart feels too heavy, you instinctively reach for the TV remote? You turn it on, flipping endlessly from one channel to another, even though there isn't a single show that actually interests you. You don't watch the screen because you care about the program. You keep it on just to hear the sound of a human voice, desperate for any background noise to drown out the terrifying silence of the room. Or maybe you grab your phone and start scrolling through social media, reading sensationalized news stories or negative gossip, only to find that your mind feels even more anxious, scattered, and exhausted than it did before. Other times, you might find yourself slipping into resentment toward your children. You blame them for being cold, you wonder why they haven't visited all week, and you ask why they can't just pick up the phone. You tell yourself that if your children just visited more often, if they talked to you more, or if you just had a few more friends to hang out with every day, then this monster of loneliness would finally leave you alone. But there is a brutal, undeniable truth that Thich Nhat Hanh revealed to us. He showed us that all of these attempts to fill the void from the outside are nothing more than a temporary painkiller. It works for a fleeting moment, but the second you turn off the television, the moment the phone screen goes black, or the very minute a social gathering ends and everyone returns to their own lives, the loneliness rushes back in. And when it returns, it strikes with an even greater force, leaving you feeling far more abandoned, hollow, and devastated than before. Why does this happen? Why is it that the harder we fight to escape our isolation by looking outward, the more profoundly isolated we become? Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully explained that the root of absolute loneliness has absolutely nothing to do with how many people are sitting in the room with you. It doesn't depend on whether your children call you every day or completely ignore you. The real underlying cause of your loneliness is that you are entirely absent from yourself. For your whole life, you have been deeply conditioned to look outward. You spent decades worrying about your spouse, caring for your children, building your career, and maintaining your social standing. You poured every single ounce of your vital energy into taking care of others, catering to the endless demands of the external world. And then, when old age finally arrives and all of those heavy obligations slowly come to an end, you are suddenly handed a massive amount of free time, but you have absolutely no idea what to do with the person staring back at you in the mirror. The truth is, you have abandoned yourself for decades. Your own soul has become like a forgotten child, left behind in a dark, neglected corner, with no one to care for it, no one to check on it, and no one to ask how it is doing. And now, when the noise of work and the frantic pace of raising a family are gone, that neglected child inside you is finally making itself heard. It is crying out, screaming for your attention. Your loneliness is not a sign that you need more people. It is the weeping voice of the inner child that you yourself have abandoned. The moment you become dependent on the attention of others, the moment you demand that your children must show their love in the exact way you expect, or that society must constantly validate and remember you, you are handing over the keys to your own happiness. You are placing your joy entirely into the hands of someone else. If your children are too busy to call, you suffer. If an old friend is unavailable to visit, you drown in sorrow. This absolute dependency is an invisible chain that binds you to a lifetime of suffering, transforming you into a helpless victim of your circumstances. Thich Nhat Hanh once beautifully remarked that we are lonely simply because we do not know how to go back home. And by home, he didn't mean a physical structure made of brick, wood, or concrete. Home is the island within yourself. It is that sanctuary of absolute peace that has always existed inside your own consciousness. When you don't know how to return to that island, when you don't know how to be your own friend, to gently embrace and nourish your own soul, then it doesn't matter if you are standing in the middle of a crowded Times Square, you will still feel utterly abandoned and lost. This fundamental misunderstanding has caused us to walk down the wrong path for a very long time, turning our golden years into a journey of resentment and sorrow. But once you recognize this boundary, once you awaken to the absolute root cause of your pain, you will see a path of brilliant light opening up right before your eyes. And that path begins with incredibly small, yet profoundly miraculous actions that we are going to practice together right now. Now that we truly understand that our loneliness stems from the fact that we have abandoned ourselves, the big question is, how do we actually go back home? How can someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s build a sanctuary of absolute peace within themselves without needing to rely on a single soul from the outside world? Thich Nhat Hanh never asked us to practice extreme, agonizing rituals or to study complicated philosophies that have nothing to do with real life. Instead, he showed us how to use our steps and our breath, incredibly simple tools that anyone, regardless of age or physical health, can practice immediately, right inside their own home. I want to guide you through two small, subtle shifts that possess an extraordinary power to completely transform your emotional world. The very first step is what I like to call the breath of recognition, or the embracing breath. My dear friends, right now, if you feel a wave of sadness, resentment, or emptiness starting to swell up in your chest, I beg you, please do not try to fight it or push it away. Do not turn on the television and do not pick up your phone. Just sit up with your back comfortably straight in your chair. Let your shoulders completely drop. Relax every single tiny muscle on your face and let your hands rest gently on your thighs. Close your eyes softly, or simply let your gaze rest on a fixed point on the floor in front of you. Now take a wonderfully deep breath in through your nose. Feel your abdomen gently expand as the cool, clean air flows into your body, completely filling your lungs. As you draw that air in, say these words silently to yourself. Breathing in, I know that loneliness is inside me. And then let that breath go, releasing it very slowly, very smoothly through your mouth or nose, feeling your belly fall as all the tension leaves your body. As you exhale, whisper these words to your spirit. Breathing out, I smile to my loneliness. I want you to repeat this breathing exercise 5 times, 10 times, taking all the time you need. Do you see what we are doing here? We are not using any force or aggression to drive the sadness away. This loneliness is not an enemy, it is a part of us. It is our own emotional child. When a baby is crying hysterically, a loving mother doesn't scream at the baby. She doesn't run out of the house and abandon it. No, a loving mother immediately runs to the crib, picks up the crying baby, and holds it tight against her chest with the utmost tenderness, warmth, and affection. The mindful energy flowing through your breath right now is that exact loving mother. The moment you call your loneliness by its name and say, I know you are there, I see you, and I am not going to abandon you anymore, the loneliness will instantly feel the warmth of your presence, and it will begin to soften and settle down. Practice this breathing technique every single time your heart feels hollow, and you will begin to feel a deep sense of self-mastery and a gentle, soothing peace spreading through your entire mind. The second step is the practice of walking meditation at home, bringing the sacred art of Thich Nhat Hanh into your daily living space. You might think that meditation requires you to sit perfectly still, cross-legged for hours on end, but according to Thich Nhat Hanh, meditation can be alive in every single step you take. Think about it. Every single day, you have to move around your house dozens of times. You walk from the bedroom to the living room, or from the couch to the kitchen to pour a glass of water or cook a meal. Normally, we walk through these spaces in a frantic rush. Our minds are completely lost, rehashing regrets from the past or drowning in anxieties about the future. Our feet are moving, but our soul is miles away. Now I want you to transform those mundane, ordinary trips into steps of pure awakening. The next time you get out of bed or stand up from your armchair, force yourself to walk very slowly, deliberately slow. Lift your foot, move it forward, and place it down on the floor with total awareness. As your left foot presses against the floor, breathe in and realize left foot touching the earth. As your right foot steps forward, breathe out and realize right foot touching the earth. Feel the cool texture of the hardwood or the smooth tile beneath the soles of your feet. Let it sink in that you are alive, that you still possess a pair of legs that can walk across a room. This is an absolute miracle, an extraordinary blessing that millions of people lying on hospital beds right now would give everything they own to experience. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a beautiful line of poetry that goes, I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I am solid, I am free. In the ultimate, I take my refuge. Every single step you take in this manner is a powerful declaration that you are living fully in the present moment, completely done with chasing illusions or begging for external validation. By turning your lonely house into a sacred path of walking meditation, you will find that every square inch of your home suddenly becomes charged with a beautiful, solid energy of concentration and peace. Keep practicing these 2 tiny micro-steps every single day, and you will be absolutely amazed by the miraculous shift that occurs within your heart. To give you an even greater sense of faith, certainty, and strength on this path of practice, I want to share a story with you that is completely, beautifully true. It is the story of a gentleman named Min who had just crossed his 65th birthday. Mr. Min had spent his life working as a highly respected mechanical engineer. He was an incredibly energetic, sharp, and powerful man who had always been the absolute pillar of strength for his entire family. His whole life was consumed by massive construction projects, intricate blueprints, and demanding designs. His wife was a gentle, nurturing, and deeply capable woman who took care of every single detail at home so that he could focus entirely on his career. But then 3 years ago, a massive tragedy struck. His beloved wife passed away suddenly after a very short, unexpected illness. At almost the exact same time, he reached the mandatory age for retirement. These 2 monumental life events hit him simultaneously, completely shattering the world he knew. Overnight, he went from being an incredibly busy, sought-after professional who traveled constantly to a completely isolated old man, spending 24 hours a day wandering aimlessly through a massive, empty 2-story house in the quiet suburbs. His 2 children had moved far away to establish their own careers. They were completely overwhelmed by the brutal demands of making a living and raising their own kids, meaning they could only manage to visit him once every few months. In the beginning, Mr. Min fell into a severe emotional crisis without even realizing what was happening to him. The raw, agonizing grief of losing his lifelong partner, combined with the sudden, jarring vacuum of retirement, turned him into an incredibly irritable and hypersensitive man. He desperately tried to escape his suffocating loneliness by calling his children constantly, multiple times a day, and every single time they picked up, he couldn't stop himself from pouring out bitterness and resentment. He would say, "Why don't you guys ever come home to see me? Are you really so busy that you can't even spare a single day to come look at your old father's face? Your mother and I sacrificed everything to raise you, and now that you have wings, you just abandon me here to rot." Those cutting words originally came from a place of deep love and intense longing, but over time they created a massive, suffocating cloud of guilt and pressure over his children. Slowly, the phone calls started getting fewer and farther between. It wasn't because his children stopped loving him, it was because they became absolutely terrified of the resentment, terrified of the crushing guilt they felt every time they saw his name on the caller ID. Everything came to a painful head. One evening, when his oldest son, completely stressed out from a crisis at work, finally snapped over the phone. He shouted, "Dad, please, can you just leave us alone for a second? I'm losing my mind trying to make enough money to keep a roof over our heads right now." The line went completely dead. Those words felt like a physical blow to Mr. Min's dignity as a father. He hung up the phone and tears streamed down his face. He locked the front door, refused to see anyone, and sank into a deep, dark depression. He spent his days lying flat on his back, staring blankly at the ceiling, his heart completely poisoned by bitterness. He truly believed his life was a tragedy, that his children were ungrateful, and that this loneliness was a maximum security prison where he was forced to sit and wait for death. Then, one sunny morning, while he was mindlessly cleaning out his late wife's old bookshelf, he stumbled upon a small, dusty book titled "Peace is Every Step" by Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. His wife had purchased it years ago but never had the chance to finish it. Standing there in the middle of his despair, he sat down on the floor and began to flip through the pages under the warm glow of a lamp. And suddenly, There was a single sentence written by the master that shook his entire being, completely shattering his old perception. The master wrote, "If you cannot find peace within yourself when you are completely alone, you will never find it anywhere else. Go back and take care of your own garden. Stop begging for happiness from the hands of others." Those words felt like a lightning bolt cutting through the pitch-black darkness of Mr. Min's mind. It suddenly hit him how incredibly wrong he had been. He realized he had turned himself into an emotional beggar, desperately trying to force his children to throw him scraps of joy, and then becoming furious and resentful when they couldn't deliver. Right then and there, he made a firm decision to change. He began to apply the simple mindfulness teachings of the Master to his raw, everyday life. Every single morning when he woke up, instead of letting his mind spiral into dark, toxic thoughts, he practiced the breathing of recognition for 10 minutes before even lifting his head from the pillow. After that, he would walk downstairs and very slowly, very deliberately, brew himself a warm pot of green tea. He completely stopped watching television or checking his phone while he drank. Instead, he just sat there in absolute silence, holding the warm teacup with both hands, feeling the heat radiate into his palms. He would look deeply into the clear amber liquid and smile softly, whispering to himself, "I am drinking my tea in total awareness. I am right here, and I am okay." He then went out and began to restore the neglected garden in the front yard, the sacred space where his wife used to love planting vibrant roses and moss campion. Every time he watered the soil, he anchored his entire mind to the flow of the water, watching every single leaf, every tiny green bud pushing its way through the dirt. He realized that life all around him was continuing to unfold in a brilliant, miraculous way, and that nature was waiting with open arms to welcome him back. After just a few months of this consistent, gentle practice, a complete miracle took place. The heavy, stagnant air of depression completely evaporated from Mr. Min's home. It was no longer a cold prison of isolation. It had been beautifully transformed into a sanctuary of concentration. His face became radiant, a healthy color returned to his cheeks, and a genuine smile was constantly resting on his lips. He completely stopped calling his children to complain or guilt-trip them. Instead, once a week, he would send them a short, beautifully warm text message. "Hey kids, just wanted to let you know that Dad is doing wonderful and feeling incredibly peaceful here at home. Please don't worry about me. Focus on your work and take good care of your health. Sending you all my love." This radical, unexpected shift from their father caught the children completely off guard, sparking their intense curiosity. The powerful energy of peace and self-sufficiency radiating from Mr. Min acted like an invisible, irresistible magnet. A couple of weeks later, without him ever asking, begging, or hinting, both of his children packed up their cars and drove down to visit him for the weekend. The house was once again filled with gifts, delicious food, and the beautiful, chaotic laughter of his grandchildren running through the rooms. But the truly extraordinary thing was this. When Sunday afternoon rolled around and it was time for them to leave, Mr. Min walked them out to the driveway, waved goodbye with a bright, peaceful smile, and Thong walked back into his house. His heart was completely whole, completely at peace. He didn't feel a single drop of that devastating emptiness or abandonment that used to crush him the moment they left. Why? Because he knew with absolute certainty that his inner island was solid. He had finally found his ultimate, truest companion, and it was the living energy of Chun Niem resting inside his own soul. The beautiful transformation of Mr. Min stands as a monumental proof that our twilight years can be a time of extraordinary joy and self-created happiness, provided we know how to redirect our emotional energy. Drawing from his journey, I want to expand our conversation into two incredibly critical dimensions that almost every single person between the ages of 50 and 80 struggles with on a deeply personal level. These are the sacred art of setting healthy emotional boundaries with your children and the secret to completely transforming those toxic, terrifying energies that tend to attack your mind in the dead of night. The very first dimension we must look at is the art of setting healthy emotional boundaries, or, to put it in the beautifully simple language of Thich Nhat Hanh, learning how to completely surrender your need to control the lives of your adult children. So many parents, as they step into the later chapters of life, fall headfirst into a dangerous psychological trap that can be described as attached love. You tell yourself that because you love your children more than life itself, and because you possess a massive wealth of life experience, it is your absolute right and your heavy responsibility to interfere, to guide, and to constantly worry over every single decision they make. You stress over how they are raising your grandchildren, how they are spending their hard-earned money, or how they are handling their marriages. And the very moment you see that they are not following your exact blueprint, you feel deeply insulted. You tell yourself that your children are disrespecting you, that they don't need you anymore, and immediately that old monster of loneliness and self-pity rears its ugly head. Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully taught that true love, what the Buddhist tradition calls true love, must always be woven from two essential elements. Two, maitri, which is the capacity to bring joy and conditional warmth, and B, karuna, which is the capacity to ease suffering. But above all else, true love must contain the element of absolute freedom. If the love you are offering your children makes them feel suffocated, exhausted, and constantly wanting to pull away from you, then please understand that it is no longer pure, unadulterated love. It has transformed into an unhealthy emotional attachment born from your own ego, fueled by your own terrifying fear of being abandoned. Your children are grown adults now. They are entirely independent entities with their own unique destiny to fulfill. They have their own painful, beautiful life lessons that they must experience firsthand, even if that means making monumental mistakes and falling flat on their faces. Your choice to let go, to take a step back and watch from a distance, is not an act of abandonment or cold indifference. It is the highest, most noble expression of respect and absolute faith. Live with optimism by understanding that the greatest gift, the most priceless legacy a mother or father can ever leave behind for their children is not a trail of constant worry and critical lectures, nor is it a massive inheritance of material wealth. No, the greatest legacy is the living example of an elder who knows exactly how to live a life of joy, self-containment, and absolute peace. Someone who refuses to become an emotional weight around the necks of their children. When you take total responsibility for your own happiness, you are giving your children the ultimate freedom to focus entirely on their own lives and careers. That, my friends, is the absolute peak of mindful parenthood. The second dimension, which is an incredibly raw and painful reality for so many older adults, is the brutal onslaught of negative energy that happens late at night. As we get older, our bodies naturally require less sleep, and the sleep we do get can be incredibly fragmented and short. When the darkness of midnight settles over the world and the environment becomes completely, hauntingly silent, your physical aches and pains seem to amplify. And right on cue, a tidal wave of restless, toxic thoughts begins to hijack your brain. You start obsessing over your health, terrifying yourself with thoughts like, what if I have a stroke tomorrow? What if I end up paralyzed in a nursing home with no one to watch over me? You experience a suffocating fear of death, a deep anxiety about the inevitable separation from everything you love. Or perhaps you commit the ultimate mistake. You lie in bed scrolling through your phone in the dark, consuming terrifying news about wars, economic collapses, epidemics, or sinister scams targeting the elderly. Those toxic pieces of information enter your consciousness through your eyes and ears, what the Buddha called the doorways of the senses, and they sink deep into your store consciousness, violently stirring up the dormant seeds of terror and panic. Your heart starts racing, your chest tightens, and you find yourself trapped in a state of absolute insomnia and dread. The absolute secret to conquering this midnight monster lies in learning how to fiercely protect your six senses under the brilliant light of meditation. Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully noted that our mind is exactly like a house with many open windows. If you leave all the windows wide open to a raging storm, the violent winds will blow inside and completely destroy everything in the rooms. Therefore, at night, at least 1 full hour before you intend to sleep, I want you to make an absolute vow to turn off the television and place your smartphone in an entirely different room. Do not allow the manipulative, toxic energies of the digital world to hijack your fragile psychology. Instead, the moment you lie down, I want you to practice a beautiful session of total body relaxation right there in your bed. As you lie flat on your back, gently close your eyes and let your arms rest loosely by your sides. Take the spotlight of your mindful awareness and slowly scan it across every single part of your physical body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Breathe in deeply and say to your body, breathing in, I am aware of my eyes. Breathe out slowly. Breathing out, I smile to my eyes, allowing them to completely relax. Move that spotlight of tender attention to the muscles of your face, releasing the tension in your jaw. Move it down to your shoulders, letting them sink deep into the mattress. Move it to your chest, your abdomen, and all the way down to your tired feet. The moment you direct pure, unconditional love and attention into your physical form, the body's natural healing currents are instantly activated. Your muscles go slack, your frantic nervous system is gently soothed, and your mind is left with absolutely no room to spin those web-like thoughts of terror. If a scary thought does happen to pop up, do not panic. Just acknowledge it gently. There is a seed of fear trying to grow, and then immediately use your exhale to wrap it in love and let it drift away. Sleep will come to you in an incredibly natural, beautiful way, wrapping you in its arms like a safe, protected child, holding you in a state of absolute, unbreakable peace throughout the long night. My beautiful friends, as we have traveled together through these deep valleys of emotion, from learning how to stand face to face with our pain, to diagnosing its absolute root cause, and finally mastering those small, transformative practices in our daily lives, I want to lift our conversation up to its ultimate peak. I want us to step into a profound dimension of Buddhist wisdom, a realm of ultimate truth that can completely uproot the oldest, most terrifying fear known to the human condition, especially as we approach the final chapters of our lives. The fear of absolute annihilation, the fear of permanent separation, the fear of death itself. Throughout his decades of global teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh loved to use an incredibly gorgeous poetic metaphor to explain the true nature of life and death to the world, the metaphor of a cloud floating in the sky. I want you to close your eyes for a brief second and visualize a beautiful, fluffy white cloud drifting lazily across a brilliant blue sky. That cloud has a distinct shape, a unique color, and a striking beauty that belongs entirely to it. But then the atmospheric conditions change. The cloud can no longer maintain its form, and it transforms into rain, falling down upon the dry earth. The rain sinks deep into the soil, nourishing the roots of the ancient trees, flowing into tiny underground streams, and eventually emptying out into the great rivers and oceans. Now, if we look at this phenomenon through a very shallow, ordinary lens, we would say, the cloud is dead. The cloud is completely gone, and our hearts might feel a twinge of sorrow and loss. But if we look at that exact same event through the eyes of Changnyim, through the profound Tue Gyak of Zen Buddhism, we will see a truth that is completely mind-blowing. The cloud never died. It is an absolute scientific and spiritual impossibility for a cloud to go from being something into becoming absolutely nothing. The cloud has merely continued under a different manifestation. The next time you hold a warm cup of tea in your hands and take a sip, you are literally drinking that exact same cloud. When you walk outside and see a gorgeous red rose blooming in the garden, you are looking directly at the cloud smiling back at you from inside the petals. The cloud is alive in the rain, It is alive in your tea, and it is alive in every single leaf around you. The physical body that you inhabit right now is completely identical to that floating cloud. Think about your youth, those vibrant years when your skin was flawless, your hair was thick and dark, and your body felt completely invincible. Has that youth truly vanished into thin air now that you are 70 or 80, looking at wrinkles and a head full of silver hair? No, absolutely not. It has not disappeared for a single fraction of a second. Your beautiful youth is being perfectly, flawlessly continued right now in the very physical forms, the very cells and the very breath of your children and grandchildren. Every single time you look at your son and notice that his eyes look exactly like yours, or you see your daughter flash a smile that mirrors your own, or you watch your grandchild walk with the exact same rhythm that you used to have, that is the moment you are witnessing your own ongoing continuation. The moral values you stood for, the acts of kindness you performed, the deep love you poured into their hearts over the last 50 years, that is your true new manifestation. You can never be annihilated, and for those of you whose hearts are broken because you are carrying the agony of losing your life partner, I want you to let your soul become completely still so you can receive these healing words from Master Thich Nhat Hanh. The love of your life, the one who stepped across the threshold of this world and left you behind, is absolutely not resting inside that cold, lonely cemetery plot. Their physical form has returned to the sacred earth, and the earth is using it to grow beautiful green grass and wild flowers. But infinitely more important than that, the entirety of their love, the collective wealth of your shared memories, their unique quirks, and the very essence of their soul became deeply woven into your own flesh, your own thoughts, and your own breath during your years together. You are the living, breathing continuation of your partner. When you sit here right now, taking a slow, peaceful breath, you are breathing for both of you. When you let a gentle smile cross your lips, they are smiling right along with you through your very mouth. Separation is nothing more than an illusion created by our limited physical senses. Under the brilliant gaze of awakened wisdom, there is no such thing as birth, and there is no such thing as death. There is no coming, and there is no going. We are all part of a magnificent, continuous, and completely endless river of energy and consciousness. The very moment your spirit truly touches the reality of this endless continuation, the ghost of absolute loneliness will instantly dissolve into nothingness. It will be replaced by a deeply sacred feeling, a magnificent realization that you are completely intertwined with the entire universe. You will realize down to the marrow of your bones that you have never been alone for a single second of your existence. Surrounding you in this very room is the living presence of your ancestors, your parents, your late partner, your distant children, and the vast, beautiful Earth Mother that is gently supporting every single step you take. Death completely loses its terrifying grip over your mind. It is no longer a dark, monstrous abyss waiting to swallow you at the end of the road. Instead, it becomes nothing more than a beautiful, graceful transition, exactly like a golden autumn leaf gently letting go of its branch, floating softly through the air to return to the soil, ready to become the vital sap that will fuel a glorious new spring. Carrying that magnificent realization in your heart, you will walk through the remaining chapters of your life in a state of absolute, unshakable liberation. You will be free from fear, free from attachment, with nothing but an ocean of endless peace illuminating your soul. My beautiful friends, my dear companions who are so incredibly close to my heart, our long journey of deep conversation and soul-stirring reflection has finally arrived at its closing words. Together we have walked through the darkest, coldest valleys of absolute isolation, and together we have climbed to the sunlit peak of total awakening, guided by the brilliant light of mindfulness and timeless spiritual wisdom. Let me look directly into your eyes right now with all the profound honor, respect, and love that an old friend can possibly give to leave you with this final core message. Please remember this. Getting older is not a dark, depressing sunset. It is not the sorrowful, fading conclusion of a magnificent song that has lost its relevance. Not at all. Old age is the glorious golden autumn of human life. It is, without a doubt, the most beautiful, the most profoundly tranquil period of your entire existence, provided you know how to anchor your soul in the absolute beauty of the present moment. This is the sacred time when all the violent storms, the toxic competitions, and the frantic chasing after wealth and fame of your youth have finally faded into the background. It is the time when you are handed the priceless gifts of emotional maturity, endless compassion, and the profound wisdom that can only be forged by someone who has tasted every single flavor of life. Do not be afraid of being alone, my friends. That quiet, solitary space you inhabit is not a punishment from the universe. It is a miraculous, beautiful gift that life is handing to you after a lifetime of hard work and endless sacrifice. It is your golden opportunity to finally go back home, to open wide the doors of your heart, to tenderly hold that neglected inner child, and to finally learn how to love yourself completely and unconditionally. Only when you find the courage to light your own lamp and walk your own path, discovering the infinite source of peace and self-sufficiency inside your own soul, can you truly become a magnificent pillar of spiritual strength for your children and a grand ancient tree that offers cool shade to this entire world. If you feel that our heart-to-heart conversation today has brought even a small drop of cool peace, a tiny spark of warmth, or a beautiful new perspective to your tired, aching soul, then I gently ask you to take a few small actions to help me keep this healing energy alive. Please click the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share this video with your friends, your siblings, or your neighbors who are currently trapped in the silent, suffocating cells of loneliness, those who are desperately starving for a word of comfort, a warm spiritual embrace, just like the one we shared today. Let us work hand in hand to build a beautiful global community of elders who choose to live with total awareness, radiant joy, and absolute freedom. And right now, in this very moment, before you turn off your screen and step back into the rushing demands of your daily life, I want to offer you a very special, sacred invitation. Go down to the comment section below this video and write out this exact sentence. I am breathing and I am at peace. Do not write those words for me. Write them as a sacred vow to your own spirit. Let those words serve as an unbreakable reminder to yourself that from this exact moment forward, you are choosing the path of returning home. You are choosing to live out the rest of your days wrapped in the garments of mindfulness, dignity, and absolute peace. Now I invite you to completely relax your body. Take a deep, slow breath in, let it out with a soft sigh, and let us listen together to the magnificent sound of a mindfulness bell fading away into 5 seconds of absolute silence. Let this sacred sound wash over you like a profound blessing, carrying you gently onto a brand new path of lightness, joy, and untethered freedom. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I cannot wait to sit down with you again for our next intimate conversation. May absolute peace wrap itself around your soul in this moment and for all the days to come.